Now, today I'm going to show you one more important topic, one more important concept in swap partition, how to use file as a swap. Now, assume guys that there is a situation that you checked swap usage. You have checked free-h. As of now, it is telling that out of 4 GB, entire 4 GB is free because this is a text box. There is no production activities going on. So obviously it is completely free. But sometimes what happens is out of 4 GB, almost 3 GB, 3.5 GB is filled. Then you are worried. You want to expand the swap partition. What's the way to expand swap partition? One way, you can go create a new partition, convert that partition into swap, and swap space will be expanded. So you can just go to fdisk or parted, create a new partition, format it with swap file system, activate it, and that new partition will also start working as a swap. But let us say guys, there is a scenario here that when you run fdisk, you found that there is no space left in your hard disk to create a new partition. You wanted to create a new partition and use it as a swap, but there is no space left in this hard disk. Now, obviously, in this modern era, you may get new hard disk within some time. For example, if you're working with storage like SAN or NAS, within just a couple of minutes, they will assign a new LUN and you will be seeing a new disk connected to your machine, right? But assume that rarest of rare it might happen, but assume that there is some time, there is some issue, and it says that we have to wait for another 2 to 3 hours to get new hard disk connected to our machine. Now guys, at one side, the swap is getting filled up very fast. If complete RAM and swap is used, your system will crash, production will affect. On the other side, your storage team is telling that it might take another 1 to 2 hours to give you a new disk so that you can create partitions inside it. Now guys, I cannot wait for 2 hours and let my swap filled up and crash the system. Now in this scenario, what can be done? See, in this scenario, you can use file for working as swap space. Okay, we understood that in the hard disk there is no space left to create new partition. But whatever partitions you have created already, do you think they have used all the space inside your partition? I don't think so. In most of the case, there might be some space freely available. So why don't you use that space, work with swap, and once the disk is available, I'll create a new partition and convert into a space of swap, and I'll get rid of this file. So how can I use the space from existing partition? That is a question. So what I'll do here is I'll go for df-h. This displays the information about all the partitions that are already created and their usage. Like you see, there is a partition SDA2 whose capacity is 15 GB and used is just 4.4 GB. How much is freely available? 11 GB. Now, don't you think from 11 GB I can borrow 1 or 2 GB for some time? And once my work is over, I'll give back that space again. So what I'm going to do in SDA2, I will create one file. And that file will be used for swap. Now, how can I create a file in SDA2? How it is guaranteed? See, if you want to use SDA2 space, then go to its mount point. What is the mount point for SDA2? It is slash. So in slash, when you create a file, you are using SDA2 space. Suppose you want to use SDA5 space, then you'll be creating the files in test because it is mounted on test. So when you go to test, you're actually using SDA5 space. If you want to use SDA6 space, then you have to create a file in test2 directory. So anyway, I want to use SDA2, so I'll be creating a file in slash so that SDA2 space is utilized. But the question here is, how can I create a file with 1 GB capacity? Creating a partition, you can go to fdisk and order it to create 1 GB. It creates 1 GB partition. But how you can create a file with 1 GB capacity? If you think you can do it with VI editor or any other editor, forget about it. When you try to add the data manually, if you write your whole life story also, the file size would be hardly 1, 2 MB or 10 MB or 50, 100 MB, not more than that. But I need 1 GB capacity. To create a file with your desired size, there is a method. What is the method? You can use something called dd command. dd stands for disk dump. So the name itself is telling you it dumps the data from the disk. And there are two options in dd, if and off. If stands for input file and off stands for output file, where to take the data and where to put the data. So there is a special file in Unix, dev urandom. See, the name itself is telling you a urandom will generate a random set of data in binary codes. Now this data will be in binaries, zeros and ones. So I don't care whatever data, I need size. So it generates random data which can be copied. Now guys, you have to say that copy it in a file under slash. See, my requirement is to have a file created in slash so that SDA2 space can be utilized. So I will order it to create this new file in slash location. With what name? Name is your choice. Whatever you want to call, you can call it. Then there is one more options, blocks per seconds. How many blocks of data you want to generate? Now you can use any unit, KB, MB, GB, whatever you like. In my case, I'm telling in one cycle, generate 1 MB data. That means in one cycle, it is going to generate 1 MB data. If in one cycle 1 MB data is generated, how many times do I need to repeat this task for 1 GB data? So I'm setting the counts to 1024. So same thing will be repeated 1024 times. So it copies the data 1024 times and the size of my file will reach to 1 GB. That's how you can create any size of file you desire. Let me do it practically and show you. I'll say dd, take the input from slash dev urandom file and put it in slash with what name? Name is your choice. I'm calling it swap file. Blocks per second, I want to generate 1 MB. You can give 1 GB and count 1. So in a single cycle, 1 GB data will be generated. But if you want not to give too much load on RAM, I'll give 1 MB at a time. Then total number of counts 1024. Now within just couple of seconds, your file will be ready by 1 GB data. So let's wait for a moment and it will come up that the file is created. Now if you check in slash, you will find that swap file is created. Let me check the size of it. How to check a size of a file? You can use another command du-h. And which file? Swap file. So you see how much size it is showing us? 1 GB. So we are successfully able to create a file with 1 GB capacity. That's great. But if you check the permissions of this file, it is readable. for groups and others. See, whenever you are using a file for system purpose, it should not be readable or writable by other fellows or groups. It should only be accessible by owner, that is root, and written by the owner only. So I'm going to remove that read permission. In a short, I'll just set a permission 600. 6 means read write for owner, no permission for group, no permission for others. On which file? Swap file. Just check it out. Only the owner is having permission and group and others are not having any access. This is mandatory. If you don't do that, the next step will warn you that go back and please change the permissions. Okay, so step number 1, we created a file. Step number 2, we changed the permissions. Now step number 3, you should format the file with swap file system. How can I format with swap file system? The same command what we use to format a partition with swap. To format a partition, I'll use mkswap, same command I'll be using here. But I'll be going with an option -f as this is a file. Which file? /swap file. So you see it formatted this particular file with swap file system. Now you just check the details of your swap free-h. The swap is shown 4 GB. Swap on command is only showing the partition which is created as a swap. And out of 4 GB it says 3.3 MB is used. Maybe this time the usage has or just 3 MB is utilized. Now let me activate this file to be used as a swap. To activate a file or a partition, you have a same command swap on and the address of the file. Swap on and the file name. Now you just go back with free-h. Did you see that the size it is showing is 5 GB? And you run swap on command, there is a new addition swap file. What is the type? It's a file. What's the size of it? 1024 MB, nothing but 1 GB. Nothing is used entirely, it is free. Okay, so this is the way how you can use a file to be working as a swap. In fact, if you want to make a permanent activation concept, then you can go with this file. It will give you UUID. You can just take that UUID into FS tab. You can go to FS tab, add UUID, mount point as swap or none, file system as swap, then mount option defaults, dumping FSCK 0 and 0. So every time you restart your machine, it is guaranteed that this file will also be activated as a swap. Now suppose you don't want to use it, your work is over, you want to remove that file, no problem. You just need to deactivate it. As of now, if you run swap on, it is active, it is in use. So you can say swap off, deactivate swap file. Now go back and check it out. Is it deactive? Yes. Also, you check the size in slash. Last time 11 GB was free, but now you see around 10 GB it is free because you created a file in slash with the size 1 GB. Now, if you remove that file, rm-f swap file, check df-h and it is able to done. Now don't delete this file while it is in use. If you try to remove that file while it is active, it may throw an error that maybe it is in use. Or even if it don't throws an error, it is not a great idea because when something is in use, you must not remove it. So proper practice is to deactivate the swap and then you have to remove it. That's the good practice and that's what we have to follow. So that is it guys for this session. Thank you very much. We'll stop the session here.